Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Resident Alien Season 4, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode. Harry's back in his human form because it's too much for Kate and Ben to deal with. So now their reality's being flipped upside down. I love at one point they're chastising Max for not telling them, but he's like, yo, I did tell you guys, but you thought I was broken and you were going to send me to that school. And they're like, ooh, that is right, isn't it? Right. Because even they were like, yeah, we know like, they literally said, like, last episode or so, like, oh, we know we kind of made you feel uncomfortable and kind of crazy, but this time you can tell us the truth. But they kind of did forget the whole, like, I mean, it didn't help that Harry was literally adding fuel to the fire to make it seem like Max was crazy. But they're kind of like, yeah, but there were horses at the school. So it's like, yeah, that's why Max just gave up trying to tell you guys, because you were just going to think he was crazy. Plus, he handled it on his own. He's like, yeah, I went to space. It was only on for 10 minutes. And then I grew a beard after touching Harry's balls. And it's like, what? He's like, I knew it. He's like, no, they're metal-shaped balls that I used. That it's like, I'm not a creep, essentially. I love it. And then you have Asta and Darcy making their way over, and now it's kind of like, yeah, they already know about being an alien. They saw me hugging Max after I murdered my father. He's over there underneath that rug, and I love that, like, that you see that look across Sarah's face in general, you know, with Asta. I just thought it was kind of like this, like when he was like, yeah, I killed my father and I got my alien powers back. She's got this look on her face like, oh my god, that's so great to know, Harry. Like with everything going on, the fact is that, like, I don't know, it's kind of funny and nice, just kind of like, hey, the excitement across her face, like, oh my god, congratulations, you got everything back, Harry. She's not too distraught. There's no conversation, oh man, I'm sorry you had to kill your dad. I guess it's also like, well, your dad was an asshole and everything going on, we don't have time to really focus on that. It's just kind of like, yeah, you murdered your dad. He was going to murder Max, or force you to murder Max, and if he didn't, probably would have killed both Max and Harry, but still, you know, so it's like, we'll push past that. We're not going to worry about, you know, the parenticide that was committed here, because your dad wasn't that great of a guy anyway, so we're just kind of moving past that. But Ben and Kate have their reservations about all this, so they want to keep Max away from all this, away from Harry. I mean, they're pissed at Darcy because she kept all these secrets, so same thing for Asta. But then, like, you know, Darcy's talking about her sobriety. Asta's bringing up, like, she's going to be leaving patients, which Harry's like, wait, you're going to be leaving? And I think that's kind of interesting when you notice, like, Darcy doesn't say anything, but Harry's the one that does, and how that kind of plays out later on. I'll get to that in a second. But Kate and Ben want to keep their son safe, so they're like, we're keeping you away from all of this. So that whole situation go down. And since I brought it up, I am going to stay on the Darcy thing. She initially doesn't believe the whole, like, because she's like, oh, Harry's having this reaction, which even I was like, I'm surprised Darcy isn't freaking out either. But it's because Darcy's under the assumption, like, well, Asta's always going to be here. He's a whiny baby thinking you're actually going to leave. And Asta's almost like, well, you don't think I would? She's like, no. The reason why I could leave and comfortably come back is because I've always known you would be here. You're that stabilization. You're the stability that we all kind of rely on, knowing you'll always be here. But then, like, hearing Asta talk about, like, yeah, sometimes I wonder what's out there, that Darcy starts breaking down, because she's like, whoa, wait, you actually are considering leaving? It's like, yeah, like, she spent her entire life in patience. Darcy hasn't, but, like, the fact that she had the comfortability of knowing that Asta would always be there, and especially at a time where Darcy's going through with her sobriety, like, Asta is, like, her rock, and it always has been, even, you know, for a long time. It's like, you were my best friend, you've always been my rock and my stability. So to kind of lose that, especially for Harry, because, you know, Asta's the first human he ever got attached to, became his genuine friend, and it's just kind of like he can't imagine life without her. So that's why he's taking it so hard. It's like, wait, you're going to abandon me? He's like, well, you know, when you go on this trip, we could go together. But she's like, no, if I do go, I'm not, who's to say I will leave Patience, but if I do, I'm going alone. And he was like, what? He feels so hurt by it, but it's because, you know, he doesn't know what life is without Asta. I mean, well, to be fair, he knows what life was like without Asta. That was his life before coming to Earth and meeting her, becoming friends, and she's become such a pivotal part of his life. I mean, just as she means so much to Darcy, she means so much to Harry. She's literally the only human he's ever bothered learning their name. Like, I mean, he's learned Max's name because they've become good friends, but, like, other than that, like, Asta's the only human he's ever Well, I mean, I think he knows Dan's name, but like, but that's still in connection to like, well, I know your name because I see you enough. Could you give me pie? But also, you're Asa's dad, so like, there's that connectivity there. Darcy's reaction is just the more like in denial, like, whereas Harry's response is petulance and acting like a bratty child. Darcy's is the breakdown and cry. Her trying to make things right with Kate, which Kate's like, I understand why you did what you did. You were trying to do what was best for Bella. Isabella, the baby. It's like, oh. It's like, cause they later on it was like, wait, Daisy. It's like, oh yeah, you named our child. It's like, that is kind of a little bit of a complicated thing. But and they seem like fine because Kate's like, I know what you were doing the best that you could and why you had to keep things a secret. But at the end of the day, you're my friend and we'll find our way forward. But the real kick in the teeth for her was when Darcy's like, oh, look at all these photos I took with Daisy. A lot of Daisy's first were with Darcy instead of her. So it's a constant reminder of how much she missed out on. And regardless of what the circumstances are, that still hurts as a mother to have missed those opportunities with her child. And so she kind of pushes Darcy away. And it's not until Darcy goes to a meeting where it becomes this conversation. Like, she listens to this other person talk and it becomes this conversation about not making everything about you. And that made Darcy realize, like, mainly about the Kate thing, but I think it made her realize probably the Asta thing as well. We just didn't get that conversation this episode, but I think it made her realize, like, oh, I'm making the Kate thing about me. It's like, right, you're mad at me, and it's like, no, not taking a step back to recognize why the situation about Bella hurt her, or how she's making Asta wanting to leave and venture out about her as well. It's like, no, this is about Asta and this is about Kate, and I've kind of come to terms with that. And it's kind of a beautiful moment her and Kate had closer to the end of the episode, which I thought was kind of neat, where it's like, hey, I know, like, I'll always be here for you no matter what that may look like. And it's like, hey, I'm going to leave Bella with you because I want to go look for Max, and you're the person I trust the most. So I was like, that's sweet. I'm curious how Ben's going to feel about that. But I guess, like, with the manted of it all, you're probably going to go to Ben to help you find Max, maybe. But either way. We also got the sad revelation that Jules wasn't already dead. In fact, she was still alive. I wonder... I was about to say no, because the manted kept the form later, because I was about to say, like, I guess the manted maybe keeps the host alive because that way, in case I do shift into another form, I need you alive so I can always shift back into your form in case I change. Like, it doesn't seem like the manted has like a memory bank of these forms. It's like, okay, once I transform into someone else, I need the host to still be alive so I can transform into them. Because I think they've gone over how the manted's ability works, but I can't remember now. Because I was like, why else would you keep Jules alive like that? But sadly ends up killing her because you're like, well, my identity's been busted. I won't need this form anymore because walking around in this form is useless except for the time it is in later on, which kind of showcases it hasn't taken its new form until quite late into the episode. But it's kind of sad because that means, like, if they had gotten to the house sooner, they probably could have saved the real Jules, which that leads to a whole conversation because Ben's trying to avoid Mike because Mike will know that he's lying. He's like, no, I'm not trying to avoid your gaze. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, yeah, I just want to respect our power dynamic. And he's like, there is no power dynamic. I'm the one with all the power. So he's like, no, like, I'm the mayor. I could get stuff done because of this. And my gavel is like, oh, your oversized gavel. He's like, no, it's a pretty appropriate sized gavel to, like, the thing that it hits. But also the part of the conversation is, we found out the manted is Jules. And he's like, oh my God, I should have known. I knew she was a monster the moment she took my girlfriend. It's like, no. Like, this isn't Jules, this is manted, And it's like, most likely the real Jules is dead. He's like, well, we all make choices. I was like, Jesus, Ben. The fact is the nonchalance about, like, he's, you have Liv being a little upset about it because it's like, oh man, that sucks, Jules being the real Jules being dead, but also the whole element of calling her the BITCH, but then it's like, you know what? No, like, you're a murdering monster, so I'm gonna call you a bitch, So I thought that was such an interesting bit. And I love Ben going to Harry being like, Mike is on the. I need to, we need to like work together to like deal with this Mantic thing because we don't want Mike and Liv to find out about Harry. So let's kind of nip this Mantic thing in the bud. And Harry's like, I don't need you because you're useless. I need Max. But he doesn't want to put his son in danger. So him and Kate are both put their foot down about this situation. And, funny enough, Ben stands up for himself. Even though Harry's like, I will tell your wife about the dream you had about Deborah, like their old woman Deborah, about her being like a chocolate chip cookie. He's like, it was a sex dream. He was like, it's not a sex dream. I was naked and she was full of clothes. He's like, but then why was she chocolate chip cookie and you wanted to taste her like chocolate chips or whatever? He's like, you are a very sick man. But you got to give it up to Ben, like being steadfast and being like, well, you're not a real doctor, and I'm putting my foot down and saying no. He's like, oh, congratulations, you're actually being very forthcoming and about all this and standing your ground. Now, when you leave, make sure you pay for this session. So it's kind of like a last middle finger of like, oh, you're not going to give me your son. I'm going to screw you over by taking some of your money because you're going to have to pay me, even though this wasn't a proper session. It is the irony that they did, despite him not being a real doctor and just being shitty at his real but fake job as a doctor, he did kind of help everyone through their stuff to some extent, but it made Ben, as long as you're able to get something from it, no matter even that the source was terrible, as long as you, I guess, grow in a positive light from it. If you grow it in a negative direction and just shit's completely and utterly fucked because of it, sure, but like if you're able to take something good and positive from the BS that Harry was spewing, that's a win in the grand scheme of things. You have Mike and Liv breaking into Asta's office. Like, oh, we'll wait for Asta here. We'll wait in her office while we search for it, like kind of rummage through her stuff, because they finally checked the footage from the camera, but Harry was never on camera. Asta was, so they're like, well, is she working with the Mantic? But then they're like, oh, there might be another alien here, and they ultimately found the Joseph card, so now they're thinking the alien that she was on the camera with was Joseph. So it's like, oh, like how sick it is that she's, connected to the Mantic, but also dating another alien. What's going on here? So they confront her about it, but Asta's like, okay, fine, I was there. I'm growing. I think she said radishes. And he's like, oh, what are you using? Are you using? He's like, I use fish. She's like, I use compost and blah, 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 blah. But, Asta was able to kind of quickly dissuade them and push them away, but they don't believe her. So they're like, well, it would have to be someone that she's around all the time. I immediately thought, oh my God, they're going to think it's Darcy, but then they look at Harry and then they remember what Max said, and it's like, oh my God, it's been staring us in the face. Once again, Max told so many people from the beginning of the series that Harry was an alien, and now everyone finally realizes, oh shit, Max was telling the truth. It's just funny that two sides are finally clicking like, oh, he was telling us the truth, and we completely and utterly discounted him. So I do think that's hilarious that 3 seasons later we get kind of payoff for that in that regard. But now they know that it's Harry. They're kind of trying to prepare for that because they don't fully know what side of things Harry stands on. They now know he's an alien. They don't think he's demented because they know it's disguised as Jules, but they think like maybe Harry has some connection. So Mike's got his eyes on Harry. Harry's got his eyes on Mike, thinking like to use Mike as bait. So, and Mike's thinking, oh, Harry will be the piece to this puzzle. He'll lead us to Demented. So, which Harry's working with Sahar because she came up with her manticide solution, which I love. Harry's like, oh, it's a good thing I got my alien powers back, because if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be able to understand this formula, and I would have to admit that this little girl is smarter than me. But now it's like, oh, we're going to make some tweaks to the formula. Then, Sahar is no longer, well, she was never Sahar to Harry. She was always going to be like, oh, you're Max's friend. That's all she was always going to be. And so it's like now she's been demoted even more to little Asta. It's like, yeah, you're better than old Asta who abandons her friends. So now there's friction between the two of them because, Harry's, like attitude towards like feeling like he's abandoned by Asta. And then here's this child, Sahar, who's stuck in the middle of two grown-ups acting like children. To be fair, it's like, well, Sahar's used to that because she's always been the more mature person around, especially amongst this group, but also just in general, like having a friend like Max, she's always been the more mature person, so. I'm also surprised that it never disguised itself as Lena, because it felt like that would probably be the easiest way to get close to Mike, but in retrospect, jumping ahead, it being Liv makes a lot of sense too, because you always underestimate Liv, and this would be the perfect person to always be by your side and you not be blindsided. Because he was already not fully suspicious of Lena, but it was like a possibility they were willing to even consider, when it felt like Jules wasn't the Mantid last episode, so. Because he did try calling Lena, and they do have officers keeping an eye on her, but she does eventually make her way to Jules' place and finds her body wrapped up in that silk cocoon. So I was like, okay, so at least Lena will believe everything Mike has said up until this point. Like, oh my God, the real Jules is dead. This is being what it is. Like, she has to face the reality of either being like, yo, this is some crazy killer doing something, or there might be some validity to what Mike said about there being a alien and stuff like that, and it's Jules and all that. So I also love that bit between Harry and Sahar where it's like, it's like, oh, my mantis side is like our mantis side. He's like, all right, I told you we'll speak to our lawyers afterwards about the whole ownership thing. And also the Judy and Asta bit where like Asta dresses up like this particular miner, like the first female miner, and Judy's like, oh, here you go, because first you stole my best friend and you stole this, and Asta's like, I do this every year. In fact, Judy, last year you threw a tomato at me about this whole thing. And I love that she's having this beautiful moment at the end of the episode talking about this particular figure, and obviously drawing parallels to herself about like, oh, like this person must have been scared venturing out on their own, not knowing what's out there. But it's like, it's okay to be scared. You just got to kind of take that step forward and, embrace, what's potentially out there, and then proceeded to catch a tomato from Judy. So I also love the Harry and Mike of it all, where Harry is stalking Mike, even though Mike's clearly looking back at you, knowing he's being followed, and it leads to both of them stopping by Dan's to get one of those like large chicken or turkey legs, and the confrontation about like, oh, I know your secret. I know your secret that you have a nightmare about, giant cupcake monster eating. He's like, I told you that in therapy. So Liv comes over, and so does Asta, and it becomes the whole thing of, I'm going to tell you guys the truth. Harry is an alien. They already know. We figured it out. Like, oh, really? Okay, then let's work together. Harry, it might be this, and this, but he's not shady. Because we also want to skip over the part where, well, let's not get too caught up on the fact is that, well, Harry did kill the real Harry Vanderspiegel. Let's not focus on that, even though, like, well, there's a thing, so. I'm wondering would that conversation come up because of the Mantid? It's like, oh yeah, it kills the people, it shapeshifts, and it's like, the question then becomes like, oh, what about the real Harry? Like, what about that? It's like, oh, we'll probably dance around that. Like, okay, he's done some not so great stuff. He has been shady in the past just because he's kind of looked down on humans and stuff, which is so ironic considering Mike's all about like, it's like, oh, the Mantid and Harry must know each other. And she's like, you know that's kind of racist, right? Not all aliens know each other. It makes you want, because in retrospect, you're like, that was probably the Mantid saying that, because that's a very Liv thing to say, but it's also like, the Mantid being like, yo, that's actually really effed up and racist, homie. But yeah, the fact is that he's like, yeah, like, stupid aliens and stuff like that. He made some comment about them, and it's like, yeah, like, in retrospect, it's like, in the grand scheme of things, it is a very racist point of view that they kind of have on this whole situation. Oh yeah, I also completely forgot that, speaking of Liv, she did go and see Robert. No, other way around, sorry. Robert came to see her, and it's like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, your dad's actually still alive. He kind of got transformed, But he's also like, yo, I need to be locked up because I think someone's after me, which you're like, who? I was wondering at first, I was like, could it be the Mantid? But why would it go after you? 'Cause I thought that'd be the danger of it, because I was about to say, like, that scene afterwards, because the scene afterwards showed the Mantid still disguised as Jules, so it definitely hadn't taken Liv's form at that point. But I was like, Who could, like, not unless it's his dad secretly after him, or is it the Greys still after him? I'm wondering if that could be the case. Because they're no longer after Ben, Kate, or, Isabella, but I think they're still after Robert, but I could be mistaken. Kind of like, who else would it be? Not unless someone knows about Peter and they're trying to get to Robert to use him as bait to draw him out. Because at first I was about to say, like, how did he know to come see Liv? But it's like, oh, right, because he heard his name during her podcast. I was like, I forgot about that. Right. That's what it brought him to back to, here to Patience. So you have Harry and Mike trying to lead the Mantid inside of the tunnel. I kind of figured something was a little suspicious when Liv was like, "Oh yeah, I saw someone smoking," and I was like, at first, like I didn't get that. I was like, "Why is that a big deal?" I was like, "Oh right, the Mantid smokes." It's like a very distinct. But I was like, it just didn't feel like a Liv thing, and now we find out why, because it is Liv. Because like, would she really let something as small as that really give way to be like, oh, this is the Mantid going into another like like someone saw the Mantid go into the tunnel, because it saw someone suspicious smoking. So the fact that she never bothered it's like, well, maybe no one got a good descriptor of the person, but like, I don't know, it just felt odd. But now we found out why. Because the moment they were like, oh, we're gonna trap the Mantid in the mine, I'm like, well, that's probably going to end with you guys being stuck in there, and Mantid's following them in there, and if it doesn't kill them, it's probably going to bury them alive to kill them. So kind of a cliffhanger, nice cliffhanger to leave the episode on, because it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things play out next episode. They do have the anti-manta side, and they've got Harry's alien powers, but also we have Max and Sahara who know about it. But once again, where's the real Liv? Luckily, she's definitely not dead yet. But the question is she nearby that they can find her, or what? Or will we just find her out and about because it just took her form? But I would assume it needs to capture you first and then take your form. But we'll have to wait to see like what Liv's circumstances are. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.